Complete in hat, jacket, purple shirt, and ascot. He's Bruce the Blog.
Where?
We're going to have a shameless promotion.
And he's Bazzo, and you're watching Bruce the Black and hat and scarf and hat and whatever else.
Purple shirt.
Goes Bazzo!
Good evening, everybody.
Hello again, and as you just heard, if you can make sense out of what we just said, because I'm not sure I can, this is another episode of Bruce the Blog in hat and scarf and purple shirt and jacket goes Bazzo in cap and sweater and jacket and everything else. And
Trademark hat.
Huh?
The trademark hat.
A trademark hat. Oh, okay.
Remember,
Right.
without the hat, people would never
Where's the
recognize
trademark?
me.
I don't see the trademark. Okay. And as our regular viewers know, and actually we hope we have new viewers, right, Bazzo?
Every week.
Every week. We're brought to you by Chase Media Group, which is best known as publisher of the Penny Saver, 250,000 strong every week. And we thank Carla Chase and Frank Rich, our executive producers, and the owners of the Chase Media Group
for putting up
for
with
letting
us.
us be here and putting up with us. And, right about this point in the program, you might be asking yourself, especially if you're watching us in the UK, by George, I wonder who Bruce and Andy have on deck for today's show. Well,
That's right.
I'm glad you didn't ask the question, because as luck would have it, we have George on deck.
How
Right,
are you, George?
Hi, Bruce. How are you?
How you
Hi,
doing?
Mr. Bazzo.
Good
How
to
are you?
see you.
And we're going to obviously be talking to George for the next 30 minutes or 28 and a half or whatever's left in the show. But suffice it to say that Mr. Ondek, I think we can safely say, is like the patron saint of public access in this area,
Yes,
right? I mean, and you're going to find out why. But quickly, why am I hearing? Why am I wearing? Why am I not hearing what I'm saying? Why am I wearing a hat and a foppish scarf today?
Ascot.
It's not an ascot. Because it's our shameless promotion segment. And the shameless promotion today is, and it has been, I guess, the last week or so, National Pastime, which is a very funny show directed by Melinda O'Brien, who is a Yorktowner, and along with her husband Michael Muldoon, they run M&M Productions. They do all kinds of theatrical endeavors. They promote all the theaters around here and all the community shows. She sends out emails. She directs. Michael is an actor, and he just directed a show upstate New York. And it's a very funny show. I happen to be in it. There's a lot of very funny people in the show. And if you go to forthillplayers.com, you can find out more about it. And by the way, the character I play in the show, his name is J.P. Robinson. He owns, and I make believe I own, a 1933 radio station in upstate New York. Now, the show takes place in the summer, so I don't wear a hat, so I think I should. And I don't wear a scarf. You know something? What should I do? Leave it on?
I just don't want you to take off anything more than that. This is
oh.
we're not Bluetooth, we're YouTube.
I like that line.
I don't wear a scarf, and for most of the show, I don't wear a jacket, and I wear suspenders that I don't have on today, and it's already too much information. Salute of the week.
Yes.
The salute of the week this week I'm doing, generically, you might say, you should say, because I'm saying it, to all the healthcare facilities. All the healthcare providers.
That's right. You're on the board.
Right. Well, that's why
are on the board
if you
now.
let me segue into it, yes. Thank you for, making me not have to say it all myself.
Well,
but,
only because I had met Richard Becker, Dr. Becker.
Yeah, Dr. Becker,
and
yeah.
he had told me before you, and he was saying.
Oh, he knew about.
And he was so pleased to know
that's
that
nice.
you were.
Yeah. Dr. Becker, who
he
was
said-
running for Congress.
Right, and he said you would be
And
a
he's
great.
a very,
that's very
I
nice,
must
yeah.
add, he's a very fine heart, a doctor, too.
Yeah. Oh no, he's a
My
very,
wife goes
very
to-
well-known, respected
But he had
cardiologist.
said
He's
that
on the
you-
board of the the town
Hudson
board of
Valley.
of Cortland. Yeah, but but I really do want to salute, because we do this every week. We salute somebody or something. Healthcare providers in general, but I am specifically mentioning the Hudson Valley Hospital Center in Peekskill, which used to be the Peekskill Hospital long before my time. The CEO, John Fetterspiel, has done an extraordinary job by any measure, building that up into a very major regional healthcare center, as its name says, in this region. And I also want to mention, by the way, Northern Westchester Hospital, Mount Kisco. Our company also has a very good and special relationship with them and with Joel Seligman, who's the CEO, and Mark Vincent, who's the head of marketing there. At Hudson Valley Hospital Center, Mr. Fetterspiel and Bill Douster, who's the marketing person.
Yes.
They've done a great job. And, and it's very humbling, I have to say, that I just became part of the board of the
Fantastic.
Hudson Valley Hospital Center Foundation.
Bruce.
So they have a board of directors for the hospital. They have a foundation, and Joe Visconti, who's the head of the chamber, he's the vice chair of the foundation. And he was instrumental in my being on there. And then other people from the area, Tony Grasso of Yorktown is
Great
on it.
man.
Charisse Jervis-Hill, who's very well known, her Events to Remember company. Bill Geis, everybody knows Geis.
Such a
Oh,
name
definitely.
dropper.
He's in
Yeah,
Florida
all right.
now,
You're right.
retired.
I'm getting okay. But anyhow, so salute to Hudson Valley Hospital Center, North Westchester Hospital, and other hospitals.
May I interject
yeah.
something there, Bruce?
Well, you're the guest, George, so I've already spoken too much.
Okay. I also want to salute Hudson Valley Hospital. You know why?
Okay.
My wife recently had a hip replacement operation there in their new surgery
Yes, yeah,
center
yeah.
about a year and a half
Right.
ago, and they did excellent. And she's had 2 cataract operations there,
Right.
and the treatment and the care they give to you is out of this
No,
world.
absolutely, no. There's no question about it. And they keep adding, very well-known specialists. They're coming from all over the country, to be with this hospital. They've increased the size of their medical faculty, manifold. They recently opened, as we mentioned, the Cheryl R. Lindenbaum Cancer Center that Bruce Lindenbaum, who's, a very prominent businessman and philanthropist in the area, obviously
Frank
helped
and
make
Lindy.
happen in memory of his late wife. So, so we just want to mention that. Okay.
What? Not only that, they perform miracles. I knew a customer of mine. They gave him 6 months to live, and when he didn't pay the bill, they gave him another 6 months. Miracles.
And Bruce,
Miracles.
I think they're opening a new cancer center.
Thank you, Henny Youngman. Okay.
I think they're opening a new cancer
No,
center
they just did.
wing. Yes,
They just did. Yeah, they had
and
an opening. Yeah.
as you said, John Fetterspiel is doing
he's
an
done- he
excellent
does a
job
great
as
job, yes.
CEO of that
Right.
hospital.
So I look forward. We had they had a dinner recently with all of the members of the foundation board and new members, and it was very nice. And I look forward to being a productive member. So George, if I'm not mistaken, you've done something like 600 of these things?
Yes,
How many have we done? Maybe 26. about
Well,
half a year?
June 18th will be a year.
30-something.
So,
Yeah, right.
George, I knew I'm going to step out. I'm going to say quickly.
You're gonna step
You
outside?
have 2 shows that we know you do. The George Ondek show, which airs when?
That airs various times, but in the Peekskill area, it airs 10:30 on Thursday night.
Then you follow us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're
Well,
excellent
he,
leader.
Channel
he may
15.
follow us
Let me
on
interject
on the air,
something
but
there.
we follow you, not genealogically, but but I don't think we're related. But, I mean, we're following in your footsteps. As I said, you're like the patron saint of public
Well,
access in
I
this
feel-
area, but you've done it for 14 years.
I feel
I mean,
very-
did they have TV 14 years ago? No.
Surprisingly as it sounds, public access has been around about 30 years.
Yeah,
and
right.
the excellent person who works here, C.O. Mastrilli,
Yes, no, who does
has
a great
been-
job for
has
us.
been with cable about 28 years with
Yeah.
various companies.
That's
Right, yeah.
what I've always wanted to ask you
Yeah.
about the national pastime, the radio station.
Yeah.
Is it color or black and white?
I'll have to ask the playwright. I recently met the playwright, Tony Sportiello, and I should ask him if it's
Because you
color or
have
black
to,
and white. I
you have
don't
to
know,
realize
but
if it wasn't for Thomas Edison, we'd all be watching TV by candlelight.
Oh, that's-
Anyway,
yeah.
George, but
That's
you
a good
also do
thought.
something else that's important,
Yes, thank you.
and that is the legislator report in
Legislators
Yorktown.
update.
And
Yes,
that
right.
and now you started. I don't know. From when I was watching it, it was Nick Bianco and Councilman Yorktown
Martirano.
Yes.
and Lou Campisi.
Oh.
Yes.
And then Campisi lost his election, and then Martirano came
Right,
on.
right.
And then Martirano lost, and now Dave Paganelli came
Yes.
on. So are you a jinx?
No, I am not a jinx because Nick Bianco has been councilman in the town for 16 years, and he was just elected in for another 4
Yeah,
years.
That's true.
But
That's right.
let me ask you
Yeah.
something, because people always say, how does he get elected all the time? And you've now dealt with him on the show close up. What is Nick's secret to getting elected?
Nick's secret to getting elected is he cares, okay? I know him very well.
That's what I'm saying.
I know him from the Jefferson Valley Mall where he goes and he sees
Oh, he's
seniors.
a walker. He's a proverbial walker
Yes, and
at
he
the
loves
mall.
to walk.
Yeah.
But I saw during the electrical blackout, he went to a senior developer in Yorktown, called up New York Nice Egg,
Nice Egg,
who's
yeah.
really rotten egg, and got them to turn the power on for senior citizens. So he's out there helping the people. But Mr. Paganelli has done a tremendous job. I think he got the most votes.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Because he truly cares.
Well,
too.
you know, Dave, and we're both friends with him. I
Well,
mean, yes, he's a restaurateur in Yorktown through
Yes.
Travelers
He's
Rest, which is very
also,
but he's been so involved.
He's also the
as
Brewster
a-
Blogos Bazzo's business commentator.
Yes, right.
How did
that's
you
right.
get that name? Bruce the Blog does Bazzo.
I don't know. I'd have to ask my father. You know why he gave me that name. I don't know about you, Bazzo.
He's the
but-
one that called me and suggested the name, and I was fine
But
with
I
it.
think
What did I
you're-
call you?
But I think you're
Many
the new
things.
hit show on cable TV. I've
Yeah,
had
and you
so-
know something? It's true because we take a lot of hits.
But I've had so many more people tell me they're watching my show now because you're the lead.
Oh, really? What?
On
Oh.
Thursday nights.
And George, is the check in the mail?
Well, I'm a check. Would you want me
Now,
in
let
the
me ask you
mail?
a question, George. But
Good
let me
one.
ask you a
But-
question. You live in Peekskill,
Yes.
yet you do the legislator update in Yorktown.
right.
Why aren't you doing one here in Peekskill?
I have been.
What
I've
show
done.
is-
I've done one with a fine legislator who was voted out of office. Unfortunately, Bill Schmidt. He's a
yeah,
log
well, yeah,
cabin
well,
Republican,
Bazzo's very
by
friendly
the
with
way.
Bill Schmidt. He's
And let's see. It was called Peekskill Perspectives, and I may do another one if one of the council people asks
But
me.
and let's get to some juicy stuff,
Yes,
George.
juicy stuff.
You ran for mayor at Peekskill, you were
That's
telling
right.
us. What year was that?
18
18
years ago.
Oh, I was going to say 1895.
And I'm only
or something.
39, plus 30.
18 years ago?
Yes, sir.
And your opponent?
Was
were
Fran
there two
Gibbs.
candidates, or were
There
you?
was only one candidate in the race. I read this on the 4th of July, and I said, that's not America. One party, one
Wow,
race.
good for you. So you stepped
because
up,
we
yeah.
need a checks and balance system.
And you were a check. You are a check. So you balanced the ticket.
You're good at that.
Well, let me ask you, now,
Well, you
was
said
this
it,
your first foray into politics, or were you always a public advocate?
It was not my first foray into politics. I had a little background. I used to be a volunteer on many different campaigns. I used to volunteer.
Back then as a Democrat.
As a Democrat, you're right. But I also helped Janine Pirro. I helped Janet DeFiore. And my cousin was Terrence Zaleski, a Democratic mayor
So
of
what-
Yonkers and assemblyman for
So
3
when did you
terms.
come out of the darkness into the light and go and leave the Democrats?
Oh, you knew
when-
that was coming.
When did I
I
leave
set my
them?
watch by it.
I moved up to conservative Peekskill in the northern Westchester area.
No,
Yeah, well,
now
right now I wouldn't be damning the Democrats so much, but they're
Yes.
looking pretty darn good.
I can't believe the metamorphosis that has happened in Buchanan, Peekskill, and Cortland.
that's easy to
I'm
explain.
talking about nationally.
No,
forgetting about
oh,
local.
come on. The Democrat
Oh, yeah,
Party's
right.
dead nationally. They get 40% of the. You have
Yeah.
to say that the Democrats look good this year is to believe last year was an
Yeah,
aberration.
well, if the Republicans keep shooting themselves in the foot,
they're
going to
not
bleed to
shooting
death.
themselves in the foot. This is what
Oh yeah.
primaries
Have you
happen.
seen the primary debates?
Have you what? Do you
Yeah, I
remember?
watched them all.
Right? Do you remember the ones
I'm a
4 years
masochist.
ago? Do you remember the one 8 years ago? Nothing has changed during a primary. This is why you vet out these candidates. This is when they can put their foot in their mouth. So when they get
Well,
on
they're
the
doing
main,
a great job of that.
But
but they're
Mr.
no different than
Mr.
any
I'll
other
tell you,
thing.
if you put your foot in the mouth, then shoot your foot. I guess you're shooting yourself
But
in the
anyway,
head.
George, I wanted to ask you quickly because you are a public advocate. You have been in politics, and you said you moved up into Peekskill. You now live in a townhouse or is it a
Yes,
condo?
Society Hill.
Is it a condo or
It's
townhouse?
a condo townhouse.
Okay, now, and Bruce,
Spoken
live-
like a true politician.
You live in a house, and you also have co-ops.
Yes.
Now, in New York State, because it's an election year,
Yes.
they wish to, again, there's a proposed legislation in the Assembly, it'll probably die there because I don't think it'll be taken up in the Senate, to treat you as equal like homeowners in regard to property taxes. Now,
Oh, boy.
now I'm going to
That's
throw
not a
this
good
to
thing.
both of you.
Okay.
What don't you get that he gets? Why is there a difference in the property tax?
Okay. Are you saying we get a lower tax
much
or
lower,
a higher tax?
much
You
lower.
get a much lower
Okay.
I would say I probably pay, from what I've looked at, we live in a private home like
Right,
that, so
right.
I pay about 4 times as much in property taxes
Really?
as a condo, yeah.
So what don't you have that a private owner
Oh,
has?
do you want me to tell you?
Yes, this is what the whole thing is. See,
Okay.
we're a
What
big,
don't we-
vast area that have houses and condos.
You give tough questions there, Mr.
No, you
Bazzo.
can't ever assume what people know that you
But
know.
I will
Yeah.
tell
That's
you
what he
what we
teaches
have
me all
to
the
pay
time.
for extra. I pay $350 a month extra for common
For maintenance,
charges.
or maintenance,
Yes,
yeah, right.
we have to have a
$350,
company do our own
No, but
grass. The city
what
does it.
don't you own?
What
do
don't-
you own the inside, the outside, the
Right,
like
right,
his property?
right.
He owns
I
everything.
Maybe he can answer that. I
No,
own the
condos,
inside.
I don't live in a condo.
No,
yeah.
what is yours in that condo? Just the inside, or
No,
you
we
can't
own
do
the outside, but we're part of a development.
right? But the property itself's not
Right.
yours.
No.
Yes, that's the
what,
difference.
That's what I
Yes.
mean. So they can
You
put
just,
up
you just own the structure, right? Basically, the structure.
because the co-op doesn't even own anything. They just own shares in the building.
Yes, right. It's stakeholder shareholders.
But what I'm saying is that, like, you can have condos that pass resolutions. We don't want any decorations on our front lawn.
Yes.
It's like a
Because-
homeowners
right?
association.
Because
Yeah,
you don't own
homeowners.
it.
Yeah, we
But
have
they
a-
can't do that to you.
Well, it's self-regulating. You do it voluntarily.
Right, but you
they can't. Right.
There's
You
not a
can't
board.
really
There's
right,
not a
right.
board that
They
can
can't
tell
tell you to leave. Right.
There's
Right,
a
but they
board-
can't tell
They
you. You
could tell
can't
you.
put decorations on your property like
Yes.
they can tell him.
No,
Yes.
I mean, they could strongly suggest you don't, but they can't stop you from doing
Right,
it.
but like it says, if I'm right in a condo and a co-op development and all this, you want to change your front door, you still have to maintain the same style and color
Yes.
as the
You're saying
doors.
you need-
You have to
need
be
permission.
uniform
Right,
to everybody
where
else.
you can get whatever door you want.
Yes, right.
Right.
But the fact is, being that you don't actually own the property,
Yeah.
that is where you get the discount in the property tax.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
what-
you know where we
Right.
don't get a
land,
discount,
they don't
Mr.
own the land.
Bazzo? We pay common charges, $350 a month. We can't write that off on our income tax. So there's
Correct.
a big disadvantage we have.
Okay, yeah.
Now-
And
right.
we don't ask for a lot of services that normal homeowners
what
get.
services do you get?
Well, but homeowners pay for every service.
Yeah,
right?
but-
There's
but
We
nothing-
do
there's
too.
no- Yeah.
Yeah, but now my
Okay,
question
all right.
is this. You got a big fight going on that
Yes,
I
we
thought
do.
was settled
No,
quite a
it
few
isn't.
years ago under the Test administration.
Right. Oh, in Peekskill you're talking
about
about.
garbage pickup.
Yes.
Now, what is it? Because, like I said, in New York State, they want to start taxing you like homeowners, which I think is unfair because you don't have the same.
Well,
thing-
here's what I feel happened in Peekskill. When our condominium was built and several others, the builders made agreements with the town on what we would pay. Now, all of a sudden, the mayor wants to change that. She wants to change that and charge us
Mayor
an
Mary Forster.
additional.
I'd like to
Well,
identify
I don't.
everybody.
I don't want to.
Who
Well,
picks up your
she's the mayor.
garbage now? The city or private?
The city does, but we pay for that. But she now wants to impose a further fee on top of that, whereas I call it double taxation.
Then it would
although
have
she
to be if
calls
you're
it a
already
fee.
paying for
yeah.
it.
And here's what's funny in Peekskill, since you brought up my hometown.
Yeah.
We have a commercial area in downtown Peekskill where one of the
big.
council people live or have a store, but they don't pay taxes to have garbage.
Don't
picked
they
up.
pay to the bid for the garbage pickup?
I don't know if
Really,
it's
for the
that for
business
the
improvement district?
Yeah.
No,
Yes, they
not for the
no.
Oh, yeah,
garbage.
they pay for
pickup.
their own garbage.
They pay for the
extra
bid,
those.
but the bid puts on promotions.
No, but with being part of a bid, you also have to pay separate
But
for the garbage
here's
pickup.
what's interesting.
I didn't know that.
The commercial garbage in Peekskill, there's 6 pickups a week for them. We get 1. So it's I assume that they should have to pay 6 times.
Well,
what
at
we
least when they
pay.
pick up your garbage, they don't do it rush hour on a Friday like they do in the bid district. That's when they pick up the garbage in Peekskill for the
Anthony,
bid district.
Anthony. Right.
Rush hour Fridays.
Anthony, I beg your pardon. That's the second pickup. They get one earlier in the day.
But they get
too.
2 a day
They
on
get
Friday?
2 on Friday. And I'm from the old city of Yonkers. That was unheard of for commercial businesses to have a garbage pickup by the city. They had to get their own private firms to pick
So
up.
have you
and
brought
pay
this
for
up?
it.
Have you lobbied? against
I've
it?
lobbied
Yeah.
at the council meetings.
Yeah.
It's ongoing. And about 6 different condo associations that the mayor wants to put a fee on for $30 or $40 or $50 more a month are going to fight it legally because
Okay,
we
yeah.
don't think
Because I
she
thought
can
this,
do
but
this.
anyway, now you told us off screen
Yes, sir.
that you're a Vietnam
That's right.
veteran.
That's right, sir.
Now you've seen a lot of war in your time. You
Yes,
saw
I
Desert
have.
Storm.
Yes.
You have seen now the Iraq War and the Afghan
Yep,
War.
yep.
You have seen this.
Let's not forget the Falklands War.
Right, but we were not involved in that. But you
I know.
have seen us advocate the overthrow of Libya, the Egyptian government. They're talking about Syria.
We were not
now.
involved in that? The Falklands War?
I thought that was just.
I believe
that
we
was-
sent ammunition there.
Didn't we have a fire,
some- yeah,
planes
right,
over?
I thought Margaret Thatcher actually waged that
But
war
what was
by
your
herself.
question? What was your
Uh,
question
the-
you were arriving
My
don't
at?
know. I'll
question:
have to ask Meryl
you've seen
Streep
all
about
this
that.
war. When 9/11 happened, it changed a lot of people's mind because
right.
before that it was no war. Unless you had this overwhelming force like Desert Storm, you leave everything alone. But when 9/11 happened, it changed that you had.
course.
So, number one, was Afghanistan the right war, a just war, and is it time to get out?
Well, let me answer that with a question. Of the 16 or 15 terrorists who flew the planes into the buildings, and I was in one of the buildings a week to the day that happened, what country were they from, Mr. Bazzo?
I think they came from multiple
They
countries.
came from Saudi Arabia. Isn't it interesting we didn't decide to go to war with Saudi Arabia?
No, they got oil.
Oh, you got the answer there.
But anyway, my question again was Afghanistan, because we went after the Taliban, because I believe that's where they trained. That's why we went into Afghanistan, because that's where these terrorists trained to do what they did before they came here. Was it a just war?
That's a good question. I
You
don't
know,
have the answer
I'm
to that.
interested in your opinion.
So,
because you've
by
seen war.
By the way, are you saying that the Saudi Arabian government
No, not
endorsed that
I
the
didn't
attacks?
say that. You're
well, no,
really
but I'm
putting
saying
me on the spot.
no. But the reason I'm bringing it
But-
up, George, is if an American was a terrorist in Europe and did something horrific, does that mean the country should go to war with the U.S.?
then maybe we shouldn't have went to war with Iraq or
I
Afghanistan.
only
Well, there were
asked you
people
this
who feel that.
because
Maybe
you
we should
said
be
you
out
were
war.
actually in Vietnam. You
Yes, I
didn't
was.
serve stateside.
That's right.
So you've seen war.
Yes.
Was this, in your opinion, because you have a lot, let's see, we went through this whole thing with Bush and the elections, that Iraq was the wrong war, Afghanistan was the right war, and now that Obama is president, he says, he's taking credit for ending the Iraq war, even though it was the plan that Bush initiated,
Well-
and now he's downgrading the Afghanistan war, because, the problem is, he changed his tune when he became president because national defense is important. But nobody, without rewriting history,
Yeah.
when George Bush announced the invasion of Afghanistan, were you saying, yes, let's do this, or no, let's hold back? Because that was the public debate in Congress and the Senate back in
Mr.
2001.
Basso, I'm unsure
Right.
if it was the right war or not. I know we're going to withdraw now, and we're not going to win. Russia was in Afghanistan for 10 years and didn't win.
So-
Maybe we
Okay.
should
What do
have
you think?
won there.
What do you think of the withdrawal?
With what little time we
You
have
know
left,
what?
I want to
say-
get onto a different
You know
topic.
what I say? Support our troops, bring them home.
Right.
How's that?
That's what I mean. This is what you said behind the screen. I want you to
You know what's
say
gonna
it.
happen?
Okay, and one other thing I want to straighten out before you end, Mr. Bass.
I'm not ending.
Mr.
No, we're not.
Apo. My political, where I stand politically. I've said I've been a Democrat. I'm currently a Republican. But you know what I think I'm more of? A conservative independent. I go for who I feel is the best person
I don't
whoever
believe
he
there's
or
a
she
such
may
thing as
be.
an independent.
Oh, really?
I don't believe in
I'm an
that.
independent.
That's that people.
I'm an affiliated.
That doesn't mean you're an independent, because most people an independent are not a Republican or a Democrat.
That's right.
But I
No.
believe most independents are conservative, because it spans all the parties.
You know who I will support? Who a good person, whoever he or she may be, no matter what party they are, no matter what I'm registered.
Well, right now
Right.
for presidents, you only got a choice of he's.
Right.
And right now in the Republican primary, who do you support?
I don't have anyone that I support.
You're going to
exactly.
have
Right.
you're going to have a primary vote at the end of April. You're going to have to
Well,
pull
you're
the
trying
lever
to
for
draw
somebody.
me into the national election. I still have an open mind on that,
Well,
Mr.
so-
Bazzo.
What about you, Bruce?
And
Do
by
you
the
think-
way, when we're on George's show in about 20 minutes, he's going to seek retribution against
No,
you.
not really.
No. We don't have that much more time, and I want to ask George, of all the 600 guests you've had on, or, well, you've had 600 shows, maybe it's more or less, one or two of the more interesting guests.
One of them was a Mr. Bruce Apar.
No, I don't mean him. I don't
He's
mean
an
him.
actor.
No,
He works for
no.
Chase-
No, but you mentioned somebody else who.
I had
you know.
Donald Trump on my show.
Yeah.
You had Trump?
I know.
Yes, I did.
That was my
Wow.
reaction.
Well,
That's why you better be nice to
in the
George.
town, and he actually fired me on the show. He said, "George, you're fired." He was at the ribbon cutting ceremony in Shrub Oak when they owned the senior resident,
Right.
and I was asked
Oh.
by the Yorktown supervisor to cover that at the time.
So how long ago was that? 6 years?
Something like
that,
6, 7
years.
And
yeah.
he didn't have his show at the time. I think I awakened
The Apprentice,
him, and
yeah.
he
Right.
decided to get his own show.
Well, he should have you on The Apprentice.
He was one of the interesting. I had Joe Pepitone on my show. You remember Pepe?
I remember him because I was a Yankee fan back there, and he actually ate at my grandfather's restaurant. I got an autographed
yeah.
picture of him when he had dinner in my because they had some sort of Little League function there, and he was the guest speaker.
I've
Yeah,
had quite
he does
a
a
few.
lot of that. Yeah, I'd
I
like
had
to
a-
get him for my golf tournament.
I had
yeah.
quite a few boxers, heavyweight champs.
Oh, who?
on my
Like who?
show. Oh, I'm trying to think of all of them now. Well, you guys wouldn't remember because I'm older than you. Carmen Basilio.
Oh, I know. I remember Carmen. I don't think you're older than me. Well,
George
maybe you
Chavallo
are, but I
last
remember
year.
all of them. Yeah.
George Chavallo, the Canadian champ.
Sure, no, of course. They had, well, I saw recently they had Muhammad Ali's 70th birthday special on
Yeah.
TV from Vegas, and they had George Chavallo was
Oh,
there.
I had on my show, but I didn't have him on the show. Muhammad Ali sparring with Steve Akunto, who's from Mount Vernon, who
Oh.
heads up AAIB.
We're going to run out of time.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
grew up, boxing was a big thing. It was
Yeah.
a big thing
Oh,
in my
I was a
father's
big,
very
I was a
quick.
big boxing
What
fan, yeah.
happened that boxing lost favor?
Pay TV. Once it went on pay TV, nobody watches it anymore.
Well, I think it's the caliber of the fighter and the promoters. You know, the promoters really are the key to boxing.
A
you know.
quick one.
And
I had an uncle who was light heavyweight champ of the world. This one you won't remember, Gus Lesnovich.
You're
he was
right.
in the
I don't remember.
1940s.
Right.
I was only 5 years old when
Right.
I was in his house in Cliffside Park, New Jersey.
Yep.
And he was light heavyweight champ of the world.
Oh, wow,
Actually-
really?
Yeah.
Huh?
Actually, the most interesting guest I think that's on your show is the one you're going to be doing after you leave here when you have Bruce and I.
Well,
are
I
on your-
didn't get to that. You would have been the second most interesting
No,
guest.
never the second.
Number
Right.
one,
That's
numero
right. Never the
uno,
second.
as
And
my
anyhow,
Spanish
And I
used.
say that in all humility, and we all know that I believe humility is a false virtue.
You know,
And on that note,
fellas, I can't say I've had a more interesting and
yeah, no,
fun
thank you, George.
time
because
on-
we have to wrap it up.
Yes,
Yeah.
George,
All
I'm
right,
glad
thanks
you
for being
came.
here, my friend.
These
Yeah.
were my opinions. You may beg to differ.
And when Bruce the Blog listens, people, including the patron saint of public access, George Ondek, listens.
that.
All right, thanks. Thanks, my friend.
Oh, and one thing I'd like to say in closing, my show can be seen on Bluetooth.
You're on that.
You